Personal honor of introducing a video from Doug Rothwell, the CEO of Business Leaders for Michigan, and a fellow alumnus of the MPA program at the University of North Carolina, where we are called Tar Heels. Doug Rothwell has worked as an executive in the public, private, and nonprofit sectors. For the past decade, he has led the Business Leaders for Michigan, a business roundtable of corporate CEOs from the state's largest companies working to grow jobs in the state's economy. Business Leaders for Michigan is dedicated in making Michigan a top 10 state for jobs, personal income, and a healthy economy. Their work is concentrated on developing strategy, raising awareness, advocating policy, and championing initiatives that grow the state's economy. Now let's hear from Doug Rothwell about how the COVID crisis has impacted the path to the top 10, what challenges and opportunities this crisis has created, and how Business Leaders for Michigan's plan has changed to adjust for the crisis. Ladies and gentlemen, Doug Rothwell.
I appreciate being invited by video, at least, to participate in the conference that you're having this year. This is not ideal, but nevertheless, I hope that I'll be able to share some thoughts with you that can help you in the important work that you are doing for our state. You know, this COVID-19 crisis has had a heck of a impact on society and certainly in Michigan. And no one really had a playbook for, how do you work through something like this from an economic standpoint. And so that's really what I want to talk with you about today, is to share our thoughts at Business Leaders for Michigan about what we see as the way through this pandemic and how do we get our state back on track from an economic growth point of view. And we really see that there are three hurdles that we need to overcome. First of all, is we need to thoroughly address the public health crisis that we're facing. Then we need to reopen the economy in a responsible way. And then finally, we need to go about the work of stimulating additional economic growth. And all of these things don't occur sequentially. They can occur on parallel tracks. So let me share some thoughts about how do we restart the economy responsibly and safely. Well, first of all, we need to make sure that we don't take a step backwards. And that means following the guidelines that we have been participating in through a group called the Michigan Economic Recovery Council, which is a group of medical and business professionals that have gotten together using science to help advise the governor as to what regions of the state should open when and how much they should reopen. We need to continue following that playbook very, very carefully in the months ahead until a vaccine is developed and widely used. And then we also need to make sure, obviously, that we're doing everything we can to support our healthcare system to have the tools and supplies that they need to continue to provide care for those that need it. We also, though, need to continue working on stabilizing the business climate. This is still an unstable time. While things are, as of today, better than they were, say, a few months ago, we don't know what's going to happen in the fall and until a vaccine is developed. And so we need to make sure that we continue the partnerships that are going on right now to help the financial institutions be able to provide the liquidity that many of our small and medium-sized companies need to stay afloat. The work-share program that the state has developed, which is very important, very valuable tool. We need to continue that. And then liability protections we need to pass to protect business from situations that, frankly, could undermine their ability to survive in a time like this are also very, very important. But then the most, probably the second pillar of work that I mentioned a few minutes ago is how do we adapt to these new conditions? How do we restructure the economy in a way that reflects the fact that the world we're in today is not the world we were in a few months ago? And one part of that is let's use the resources that we have really super wisely right now. So that would mean, for example, while infrastructure has been at the top of our list to try to move forward for Michigan, we need to make sure we're prioritizing those projects that really do have the greatest economic impact and that are shovel ready, so that we can put people to work on things that matter most. Second is looking at the fact that we're working and living differently than we were before. Does that have implications on the tax system in Michigan? We're not advocating for a tax increase, but we may be somehow adversely affecting the revenues that the state needs to collect right now by working at home, getting our deliveries at home, which may not be captured by the tax system the way it was intended to work. So that would be something to work on. And then facilitating the fact that we are working differently and living differently than we were before. So broadband investments become critically important, and maybe come up higher on the list even compared to some road projects that we thought before the pandemic may have been more important to invest in. So what kind of broadband infrastructure do we need? And also then how do we encourage people to take advantage of the broadband access where it's available in their communities? Education funding, prioritizing monies going directly to the classroom as opposed to unnecessary administrative expenses. Right now in Michigan, we still have many more school districts than most states do. Those cost money. And so rather than spend it there, would it be better in the classroom? And can we roll up the back office operations of a lot of those districts to the intermediate school district level to be able to save costs? And then also with education, encouraging multi-layered education. We're going to be probably having some level of online learning for some time, and let's make sure that we're providing the local districts in this state a lot more guidance than they probably have been getting in terms of what is best practice in terms of online learning. What should the curriculum look like? What's the best way to deliver it? What support do the teachers need to make sure that the kids are getting the kind of instruction that is really important? And then also, what do we need to do to really make sure that we are using our resources effectively in terms of making sure that the talent that we have is getting an opportunity to work. So for example, we have a lot of displaced workers right now, people that were working in the food services industry or in places that in the entertainment industry, the tourism industry, that don't have opportunities to work. What can we do to rapidly redeploy those folks into other sectors of the economy that may be able to utilize their skills and their energy, whether it be in logistics, in, let's say, grocery stores or retail, rather than having to have folks go through a lengthy job retraining program. There are opportunities to redeploy folks, and with rapid on-the-job training to be able to enable them to continue to earn income during this critical time. For those folks that need it, let's accelerate the pace of getting folks certificate programs and certificates that they need to be able to work and not go through the same regular timelines that we usually do. And also then when things are stabilized, really reinvesting in programs like the governor's proposal for Going Pro and the Michigan Reconnect programs to help people get some of the longer term, higher level skills that are needed to sustain their families. And then, the third leg of the stool is what do we need to do to really facilitate economic growth over the long term, given this new set of circumstances that we have? How do we reignite, if you will, the economy? And we'd suggest several ideas. One is to shift our resources more into supporting the growth of small and medium-sized companies, in that there probably won't be a lot of major corporate relocations happening for some time. So let's take advantage of that by redirecting existing programs that are normally used to support those kinds of business attraction efforts into business retention and expansion. Another opportunity are getting our supply chains consolidated into Michigan. A lot of supply chains went overseas over the last decade or two. A lot of our Michigan-based companies, also have their supply chains overseas. What could we do to try to attract them back onshore into Michigan? And what do we need to do to try to help work with our existing Michigan companies to identify and incentivize those opportunities? And another example of, again, how we could reignite our economy is to recognize that more and more jobs are going to require more and more talent. That means those jobs are going to be attracted to be in communities that have institutions of higher education. And let's make sure that we have very clear strategies of how we can work with our universities to jumpstart growth based on the kind of innovation that comes out of higher education. So this is a quick overview. There's a lot of content there that we could talk about more, but I wanted to give you a sense of just to stimulate your own thinking about how it is that folks in your position can be able to be in critical positions to help the state move forward. Again, these ideas of redeploying existing workers in the jobs that need the talent right now without a lot of reskilling, the ability to really focus your energies on types of jobs that are going to need more talent in the future, jobs that require technology, or jobs that require the knowledge in specific skill areas. And then this whole area of thinking about delivering training in ways that rely on broadband and online learning. These are all areas that are things that you can all make a huge contribution on. So again, I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Wish I could be there in person with you. But really thank Llewellyn and your whole group for giving me a chance to say a few words. Thanks so much and appreciate all you're doing for the state of Michigan.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining this roundtable discussion. I am Terri Weems, president of Detroit Employment Solutions Corporation. Joining me for a discussion today regarding moving Michigan to a top 10 state are my colleagues Ben Damerow, director of Michigan Works Southwest, Jennifer Llewellyn, director of Oakland County Michigan Works, and Greg Pitoniak, CEO of Southeast Michigan Community Alliance, Michigan Works. Similar to Doug Rothwell, we are very interested in doing what we can to make Michigan a top 10 state. Mr. Rothwell noted in his video message today that Michigan Works is in a critical position to help move the state forward. Many of the things that need to happen to make Michigan a top 10 state that he mentioned are activities we're directly tied to on a daily basis. We're going to talk today about how we're addressing these issues currently and what we can do going forward to assist Michigan in meeting their goal. Mr. Rothwell said that we need to ensure we're using resources effectively by helping to identify new opportunities to work for the available talent. Many individuals from the entertainment, food, and tourism industries are displaced due to the COVID crisis. How do we effectively move these displaced workers to other sectors? Anyone want to start?
So, Terri, at SEMCA Michigan Works, we have hosted in the last couple of months 2 virtual job fairs using the state's Brazen platform, and we've been, did extended outreach to our job seekers to encourage them to participate in those, and we've had several hundred, actually combined over 1,000 participants in those 2 job fairs. So that's certainly been one way. And by the way, we are starting to see more folks coming in looking for new job opportunities and new training opportunities in fields that they're currently, that they previously were not involved in.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Ben?
I'll add, when you look at the payroll employment data, the most recent that's available for Michigan was from this past July. And Michigan has recovered 51% of the jobs that were lost in March, which is actually very positive. The national average is 42%. And then we're able to break that down by sector. So we know that 87% of construction jobs have come back, 86% of retail, 83% of manufacturing. So we need to target those industries that have bounced back quicker. We also know, as Doug mentioned, logistics and healthcare, we never saw the downturn there. So we've actually developed training programs, and I really liked what Doug said in terms of rapid on-the-job training. So we have a 9-week pre-apprenticeship program within the construction fields. Individuals get a number of certifications, and with our most recent training program that we had, all graduates went into an apprenticeship program. So I think it's opportunities like that where we can reskill people rapidly.
Jennifer?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with Ben's remarks. You know, in Oakland County at the peak, we had a 19.8% unemployment rate, and July's data is down to 8%. So we've made significant strides, but obviously there's still more work to do for individuals that were impacted by COVID. And really where I think our critical role is just meeting people where they're at. And, you know, making sure that we're engaging with individuals they have a lot on their plates right now. They're trying to balance, you know, maybe kids in school or healthcare concerns of themselves or their family members, maybe their fears about, you know, returning to a safe workplace. So I think that that's the role that we can play, is to be that bridge between businesses that need talent and coaching those businesses on how to connect with impacted workers and how to portray themselves as safe places to work with good jobs, but also supporting our job seekers, whether they need upgrades in skills or worker retraining. And honestly, I think Futures for Frontliners is a great opportunity for Michigan Works to be a key player to make sure that our community members and all community members, individuals with disabilities and returning citizens, and our refugee and immigrant population, our underrepresented community members have information about that program and that they're taking advantage of it.
And I think on that point too is making sure that the individuals that do not have access to technology or are not skilled in it do have access. And I'm pleased that in this region, Jennifer Llewellyn has led a partnership with Automation Alley that is raising funds right now for us to equip our customers in need with equipment, and at SEMCA here we're adding to it with broadband access and technical training that we will fund for the participants that don't have that.
All great points. You know, it's obviously daunting when workers have to make a shift, and it can be overwhelming. There are many career exploration and planning resources and tools and programs that you guys have just talked through that exist, but it could be hard for people to know where to start. So I think, you know, our Career Center staff can help job seekers navigate through those resources and learn more about in-demand careers and job skills training that might be available to help them obtain new employment. I'm glad to hear about all of the programming that's available. Mr. Rothwell noted that we need to shift resources to support the growth of small and medium-sized businesses. He specifically stated that the Workshare program is a valuable resource, especially right now. How is Michigan Works currently connecting with small and medium businesses in our individual communities?
I'd say our business solutions professional staff have been doing a wonderful job of connecting with employers throughout this time. And I know they were recognized earlier, but congratulations to all those who received their certification in 2020. And we've helped in a number of different ways. I mean, I've heard amazing success stories where we've assisted companies in shifting their production to PPE. It's stories like that that I think we really need to highlight and talk about. We also need to be aware of all the funding that's the billions of dollars that, you know, have been pumped into the economy through the government, and that we have procurement technical assistance centers throughout the state that assist companies in managing, getting through the red tape of government contracting. And they're a great resource to employers as well, and great partners. And then third, I can't emphasize enough how much we need the Going Pro Talent Fund this coming fiscal year. 93% of awardees in 2019 were small businesses. That's less than 500 employees. 93%, that's significant. And when you go one level down, less than 100 employees, 2/3 of the awards went to companies that had 100 employees or less. So it's so critical that we ensure we have that funding and moving forward for 2021.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Ben. you know, it's so critical when we're connecting with the small businesses that we rely on our partners. And so we've really tried to expand our relationships with our local chambers of commerce, and really even getting down into our communities, you know, our faith-based organizations and our nonprofit organizations. You know, we know that the heart of most business is small business. We're fortunate in Oakland County to be part of the Department of Economic Development and Community Affairs. So just by design, we're connected with the economic development team at the county and the small business team at the county. But we really try to make sure we've got that streamlined approach. Our business services team works just so hard with our economic developers in the cities and townships and villages at the county level. We were fortunate in Oakland to get a significant amount of CARES Act dollars. And so the county small business team, they awarded over $30 million in small business recovery grants. And when they hear talent or workforce or business challenges, they make sure to connect them with our team so that we can get them connected with programs like Going Pro Talent Fund, on the job training, our business resource network, or, you know, just a business services rep to help them, you know, post and share jobs.
Yeah, certainly the key word here is partnerships, and yes, our business service professionals have, you know, made sure they got educated on and shared with our local employers all the programs that were available under COVID, you know, grants and loans and that sort of thing. So that partnership has been extremely important. Working with our local chambers, sharing that information and making sure their members are comfortable with working with us. And I'll go back to, again, we had these virtual job fairs in which, you know, we had quite a few, several dozen employers participating in that to help them find candidates for their jobs. And, you know, in SEMCA region, you may be aware that we have kind of this local adaptation to the situation. With the Dearborn area has a substantial Middle Eastern population where cultural and language barriers exist. And the SEMCA AJC in Dearborn, operated by Axis, has a dedicated small business and entrepreneurship program that brings resources, talent, and local partnerships to the smaller family-owned businesses. While all of our AJCs provide services for small, medium businesses, this program at the Dearborn AJC provides full wraparound services to these employers and job seekers.
That's great. I know at the beginning of COVID, we organized all the BSRs and Career Center teams to contact every small business that we had an active account for to learn what they were doing, whether they were open, what type of support they needed, and how we could help. We launched Detroit Means Business, which was a collaborative effort to connect small and medium-sized business to any and all resources for navigating this climate, including access to grants and loans, one-on-one consultations, and the toolkit for reopening. And we also trained a number of people in how to guide businesses through the eligibility process, the application, and the certification for WorkShare. How has WorkShare been effective during the COVID crisis with the businesses in our individual areas?
I think it's obviously allowed them to maintain operations. It's been so critical, and not just, you know, our private sector employers. Our state of Michigan, you know, took advantage of the program. And I know several of us have worked with individuals who were furloughed for a day. So, you know, when that takes place and individuals are impacted, there was a significant savings, millions of dollars that the state saved because they took advantage of that WorkShare. And, you know, that applies to employers across the state. So I can't applaud the state enough for everything they did to rapidly operationalize the WorkShare program. And, you know, I'm proud of our staff for helping gain the word out and working with employers.
It was, I think, a substantial benefit to that greater economic turnaround that we've experienced here in the state. Excellent programming. Again, applauds to our business services staff for helping get the word out.
Yeah, UIA and the Leo, WD team. It was great to partner with them and come together to be able to highlight that program. I know we had a few staff that became experts in that program and were an extension of the UIA and Leo team. So we saw a lot of companies that found it very beneficial. I mean, what a great way to be able to maintain your bottom line, but also keep your most valuable resource, which is your people.
Yeah. Mr. Rothwell said that we need to recognize that more and more jobs are requiring specific credentials and education, and that communities that house higher education institutions will help jumpstart the economy's growth. Some of the ways that he said we can invest in support of the needed education and training include reinvesting in Going Pro Talent Fund and Michigan Reconnect, which I've heard you guys talk about, on the job training, accelerating certification programs, and working differently with broadband so that there are more opportunities to deliver training online, which is something we've definitely been focused on in Detroit, addressing the digital divide and more virtual training options. How are we currently effectively using these ways to invest in education and training?
So I got to repeat what's been said. We encourage the governor and legislature to restore the Going Pro Talent Fund funding. That has been a phenomenal program, beneficial to both employers and workers and new hires. So that it certainly has been one of the most significant. And we have been leveraging the programs you outlined there, Terri, quite a bit. I think and we've made a major commitment here to encourage more training with our constituencies, both incumbent and individuals. Mm-hmm. Again, partnerships are critical in that, all of that.
So I pulled some data and statistics for the discussion. But just to follow up on Greg's point, the 6 years that we were operationalizing Going Pro Talent Fund, we trained over 92,000 individuals in those 6 years. The average cost per person in 2019 was just over $1,000. I mean, what a significant investment just in terms of what the states put up, but then also what's been leveraged by the employers. I mean, the leveraged amount was over $200 million last year. So definitely just want to reiterate Greg's point that restoring the funding is very critical in moving forward and a great investment.
Yeah, I agree. The thing with Going Pro Talent Fund is, we often invest in tax incentives for businesses, for equipment and buildings and things like that. But, unfortunately, if that company goes away, then that equipment goes away and that building, gets secured by someone else. But when you invest in Going Pro Talent Fund, you're investing in people and you're giving them an industry recognized credential that, if that business goes away, we're still left with a skilled and qualified and educated workforce, which, that's what separates Michigan from many other states. I know, we get that question when companies are looking at Southeast Michigan. We work closely with the Detroit Regional Partnership, Automation Alley, and our local economic developers. And the first question is, what does your workforce look like? What's the talent base look like? Many of you heard from County Executive Coulter and Jeff Donofrio on Monday talking about 60 by 30 and Oakland's Oakland 80 goal to have 80% of our residents have an industry recognized credential or higher. So, we're really just committed to creating those employer-driven short-term certification programs in Southeast Michigan through the Workforce Intelligence Network. We received an America's Promise grant to provide robotics and automation training to individuals, and great outcomes, great partnerships with employers, great partnerships with Oakland Community College and Macomb Community College and many other colleges to create skilled, trained, and certified workers in a growing field and occupation. And I think that's what we can really offer to our business community and to our residents.
Great, thank you. Guys, what can we do better or differently to make these investments and methods more effective?
I think talking about the impact more, I think we could do that better just in terms of the impact that we're having in using Going Pro Talent Fund as an example, you know, we really talk about the employers that have benefited, but Jennifer just touched on it. I mean, these are individuals, these are our neighbors who are receiving the training and getting additional credentials and an increase in pay. I remember, you know, last fall when the funding was put on hold, there was a testimonial from my area of an individual who benefited from the training. He started as a production worker. He got into an apprenticeship training, and now he was a manager. And he just talked about how he had just gotten engaged. He just had his first child, and how receiving that training changed his life and his career trajectory. I mean, those are, I think, the type of stories that we need to be highlighting more in terms of our impact.
I think we need to make sure that we're supporting the whole individual, and making what separates Michigan Works from any other organization is our staff, and that human element and human connection and the ability to support the person from where they are. So, you know, can we give them tuition assistance? Absolutely. But if they have transportation barriers and childcare barriers, and even, you know, barriers at home, maybe they don't have someone that's cheering them on and rooting them on to be successful. One of the most powerful tools that we have is just that ability to support them through the process, encourage them, making sure that they have all the support services in place, and that they are on a pathway and a career trajectory in a positive way. So regardless of what program you look at, if it's Going Pro Talent Fund or Futures for Frontliners or Reconnect or WIOA or whatever it is, the human element is the key to our success. And I think we do that well, and we can always do that better.
Yeah, to borrow a phrase from our recent past, none of our workers should be left behind. That, again, includes conquering the digital divide to make sure everybody has equal access. I think I urge our training partners to develop more accelerated training with flexible schedules, because many of these workers, they cannot be off work for very long. And also developing work-based training models is extremely important. And of course, we at Michigan Works and with working in partnership with the state are promoting substantial amount of expansion in the apprenticeship business, which is extremely important.
So Michigan Works wants to continue to partner with business leaders for Michigan to help move Michigan to a top 10 state. What groups are we already partnering with to accomplish these goals?
That's a long list.
It is.
Well, I'm sure, you know, everyone's got their great partners locally, and I think that is really the key. I mean, obviously the association and the state, you know, do a great job of connecting us at that higher level with MEDC and our legislative partners and Michigan Rehabilitation Services, Bureau of Services for Blind Persons. You know, we're really connected at that state level, which is fantastic. But where the rubber meets the road for me is those local grassroots partnerships. So how are we connected with our faith-based organizations? How are we connected with our community leaders and our nonprofit organizations? You know, that's really where the magic happens, in my opinion. So I think that, you know, we all need to do a better job of making sure we're connected in our communities, especially our underserved communities.
Mm-hmm. So I think you're right. Anything to add, Ben or Greg?
Well, again, we emphasize partnerships, and I like to emphasize, again, local chambers of commerce, and programs like Adult Ed, other nonprofits, organized labor, extremely important in the picture too. So,
okay. Thanks, guys. So we talked about a laundry list. There's an ever-evolving list. What other groups should we be partnering with in order to move the state forward? We're partnering with everyone.
Yeah, we are.
No.
I think.
Oh, go ahead. I think to Greg's point, we have a great relationship with our labor partners. I think there are opportunities to advance that further, especially in the apprenticeship space. Mm-hmm. I think There's increased partnerships with adult education and literacy partners. Again, we do well, but that is an area of improvement. But the biggest one I really think is K-12 education. We've got great partnerships with the schools, with many of the school counselors, with our ISDs. But the challenge that they face ahead is pretty steep. But I think that we can continue to support them with events like My Career Quest and Manufacturing Day and talent tours and JMG. But there is really a huge opportunity ahead to engage at a higher level with K-12 education.
I definitely agree with that. And we're trying to do the same. I know that we launched a Learn to Earn with DPSCD this summer to help residents earn their high school diploma or GED on an accelerated time frame. That program also includes a weekly stipend. Those are there are lots of opportunities there. I completely agree with you. Anything to add before I move us on?
I was just going to add.
Well, Ben, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to add, I think we can definitely strengthen our relationships with corrections organizations as well. Mm-hmm. I think we had a really good relationship when the prisoner reentry program first started, and there's still a connection there, but it's not what it once was. And then just within our local agencies as well. I mean, we've partnered with Kalamazoo Police Department and Public Defender's Office and local judges to do an Amnesty Day event. And we'll be partnering with our Public Defender's Office and having a staff member on site there as well. So I think there are a lot of opportunities there as well.
Good. Thank you guys so much for answering our questions. We want to thank everyone for tuning in to our roundtable discussion today. Wish you all a great rest of the day and enjoy the conference.